Hello.
Hello สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะคุณนพดลค่ะ How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good, good. Do you have the new COVID variant in Thailand? Omicron? The COVID. The new variant.
I didn't hear you well. Okay.
Oh, well, there's a new strain of COVID now that's in Europe and some in North America. I'm wondering if it's in Thailand.
I heard not much in Thai, in Bangkok.
Okay. Yeah, we've got it. We've got it more and more in Canada.
And so have we in the States.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're the greatest.
Tom.
Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Hello.
Jonathan's there laughing away too.
We're now in Silver City, New Mexico.
Yeah, I wondered.
Since we couldn't come back, return to Thailand this winter, we're hiding from the snow in New
Okay.
Mexico.
Is this the same place you were at last year?
It is not in the same residence, but in the same city.
Good,
Yeah. So
It's
far,
looking
so
good.
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 So you'll be there for the winter then?
Well, we have a place rented until the end of March, but we hope, unless COVID prevents us, to do some traveling in the area. So we'll see.
Where would you go in the area?
Well, our daughter keeps telling us we have to go to Death Valley, which is in California, but we have our RV. And she keeps saying, you must see this, Mom, you must see this. So that's one of the places we'd like to go to. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see how everything progresses.
Yes.
Yeah. Sarah, Sarah and Jonathan, are you staying put for a while? Can't hear you.
We're here for a while. We were due to go back to Hong Kong at end of December, but it's all been, everything's delayed, yes.
Yeah. Here we are again.
Do you still have a place in Hong Kong, Sarah?
No, we sold the flat when we were back there last time, but we still have some belongings there. But it's still 3 weeks quarantine in Hong Kong. It's
Oh my goodness.
it's very strict.
Yes.
It's completely COVID free and
What is it? Wow.
They've had months with no cases in the community at all. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Wonderful.
It is.
Well,
It
the
is.
whole of China too.
Whole of China and West Australia.
Really?
Yeah, China's the
wonderful.
same, so it's completely.
I didn't realize
free.
that.
Yes.
So it is possible
If
if you're in an authoritarian regime.
Yes.
if people comply, that's right.
And you're willing to deal with lockdown. I mean, I don't know how what people can do, right?
Well, the thing is that it's when you're there, like in Hong Kong or China, it's wonderful because, no COVID at all, but getting in is difficult, very difficult, and impossible if you're a foreigner. So we can get in, but it's the strict quarantines, yes.
You've done a lot of quarantining this year. Probably couldn't hear me. I was walking. You've done a lot of quarantine in the past year and a half. Yes?
It's actually okay. We don't particularly mind it. It's all right.
It's not that it's such a bad thing, but if you're going to visit a place and you have to spend 3 weeks in quarantine, then obviously you're going to want to be staying there for, a few weeks on top of that to make it worthwhile. That's the main issue for us.
Right, right. There was recently a problem here with quarantine. The rules seem to change weekly, if not daily, around here as to what borders you can cross with what vaccination and what proof is required. But there was some quarantining required here a couple of weeks ago, and whoever was organizing it, or whatever branch of whatever government, it was a mess. People were not being fed properly, having to take these tests and not being notified that it was okay to leave.
Yeah.
That was the first time we've heard that, but
Complicated in Australia too, between different states, and people make plans to go to Queensland and then suddenly the borders come down and they're stuck somewhere else visiting a family member, and West Australia no one can go into. It's complicated.
oh wow. Yes, sounds like it. So that's not you. You've still got COVID happening in Australia, right?
Yes, and it's creeping up again, but with high vaccination rates, but we'll see how it goes.
Right. Have you got the
State by
news?
state here, like New South Wales, where we are still, it has, but West Australia doesn't. So they're keeping their borders very firmly shut against the rest of the country at the moment.
You can see how they might do that.
They've got the Hong Kong type policy. Yep.
Gosh, well,
A lot of support for it too.
well, it varies here as to how we don't have. We've got it here in BC for sure, but Ontario is really picking up. Toronto area. So
Lots of long stories. I know.
Exactly. It's all
Just
still,
more dramas.
still goes
more
on.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, best to keep yourself out of harm's way on this one, I think, so you don't get thinking about the dramas. I don't know, do we have many people with us yet? 11.
I think Ajan is ready.
Okay.
Sawasdee ka, Ajan.
สวัสดี
ส
ค่ะ
วัสดีครับท่านอาจารย์
สวัสดีค่ะ
ดีครับอาจารย์ครับ
กราบเท้าท่านอาจารย์ค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ
Well, I think there are 10 or 11 of us here, so good morning, good evening, whatever. Time to get started. Does anybody have any questions or they'd like to start with, or topics or things they're curious about? Sarah, do you recall if there was anything hanging over from last week that we were going to continue with? I'm sorry, I misplaced my little notebook.
I don't think this is necessarily hanging over. Okay. But I thought it was very interesting, the comments about whatever the Buddha taught is always about the truth, but it depends on conditions, whether for the listeners there is any understanding, any penetrating of the truth, depending on the interest and depending on accumulations. Because sometimes people have the idea that in this sutta or that sutta, the Buddha taught about something different, like just about metta or just about giving, but actually whatever the Buddha taught is always the deepest truth about the nature of realities as anatta, but panya has to develop little by little, so it depends on the listener how much understanding there is, whether they take away just a conventional idea of metta and someone doing it, or whether there's the deep understanding about the truth of reality. And Ajahn gave the example of the boys who were beating the snake, and the Buddha asking, well, how would you like it if you were beaten? And we take it as just a conventional example of how one shouldn't hurt animals or insects. But as she pointed out, for the boys, there was enough understanding to become sotapannas. So it just depends on the listener how much penetration of the truth. But whatever the Buddha taught, it's always about the development of understanding, the development of satipatthana. And I think this is a point that's often misunderstood.
Misunderstood initially, I guess, primarily because people would look at it all from a conventional perspective.
Exactly. So people will read a sutta, like read a sutta about the boys being told not to hit the snake, and they read it as a teaching about how you or I shouldn't hurt the snakes or the insects, or how you or I should be more generous, or how now we should develop more metta, without understanding that actually it's all about the truth of different chittas, cetasikas, and rupas, each one conditioned at each moment, pointing out what is kusala, what is akusala, what is result, just different dharmas, each one anatta. Because there've been some comments before about how, at different points along the life of the Buddha, he received different kinds of advice. And so one has to, there are often these ideas about how one should develop morality first, or generosity, and then understanding. But actually, whatever the Buddha taught, it's about the understanding of the truth of realities. And it just depends on the understanding how much of that can be appreciated at any time, whatever is read. So actually, every word of the Buddha's teachings is deep and is about the truths about anatta, no matter how ordinary or conventional it may seem.
Yeah.
Just a point there, Sarah, if I may. I've never come across, I'm familiar with that sutta. I think it's in the Udana. Is that correct from memory? The one about the snakes? Can you remember?
I'm not sure. I would have to check it. Yes, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can't remember Ajahn speaking about that. She may have, but I certainly don't remember that those boys became sotapanna. I've never heard that before. Where did you hear that?
This is what Ajahn was talking about last week. She gave this example of the snakes and how for the boys the understanding was strong enough to become sotapanna when they heard about it.
I hadn't heard that.
Yes, it's a good example of how it's so much deeper than it may appear.
Sure.
Well, also, it's also a case of a matter of how deep the accumulated understanding of the listener is, because
of course, yeah.
For us, if that question, that rhetorical question was put to us, it would be conditioned for reflection about sila, only at the level of sila. Hardly would it be a condition for reflection at the level of the true nature of realities appearing at the present moment. But it goes to show that when the understanding has been sufficiently developed, anything actually can be a condition for reflection on realities.
Yes, certainly. Tano Janka, do you know where that sutta comes from? Is that the Itiwutika or the Udana? Can you remember at all, Tano Janka?
Please say it again.
Sarah was just saying earlier that you were commenting on a sutta about the boys who were hitting the snakes. And those boys apparently, according to Sarah, she was quoting you from what she said, that those boys became sotapanna. I have never come across this. If you say you've come across this, which it sounds like. Do you know where it was, Tanajan? Was that in the Udana or Itiwutika? Do you know where that sutta was?
It might take a few years to know where it is, but as I had read it, it said that what I said, but
Okay.
I couldn't remember. But I don't think that we can find any word in any book because there are so many words and many books. But once you have found it, you know, or you understand the truth, that it's so true. It can be anytime, anything can happen by conditions.
Oh, certainly, Tanajan, yes.
If you'd like to find out, you might use your techniques to find out.
Yes, I think it might be the Udana. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it might be that. Yeah, so I appreciate that, Tanajan. I've never come across that they were sotapanna at all, so I will have a look.
And I'll ask the teachers of the Muniti Foundation to find out for you too.
Thank you. I would appreciate that, Tanajan. Thank you.
Yeah.
Does the Surah say that these boys become a sotapanna while hitting the snake?
It might be in the commentary, Roti, but it may say so. From my memory, I believe I've read it somewhere, but I can't remember that they were enlightened. I think they were tormenting the snakes, and the Buddha spoke to them about that, which actually surprised me at the time. But he obviously did so for good reason. And certainly if it was a condition for them to become sotapanna, that was certainly good reason. So I'm curious about that. I don't know. So Roti, a short answer to the question. I don't know if it says in the sutta, but.
And even the
Sorry,
answer, can it be remembered next life?
How tall are you?
5'3".
See, we just talk about the boys, and if we know the answer or that, can it be remembered next life?
Well, probably not, Tanajan. It would be unlikely. I would say it would be unlikely.
Yeah. So the best thing is to understand the truth that anything can happen by conditions.
Oh, certainly. Yes, certainly, Tanajan. I agree with that.
And
because you often quote Sariputta in that respect.
That's why the best thing, the most precious moment is the understanding what Buddha said about the truth right now.
Yes.
And that is the moment of development of understanding. Otherwise, how can right understanding develop? It's not this moment of understanding what is there to be directly penetrated its truth as no one. Just understand the meaning of no one. Who said this? No thing. There's not anything and there's no one at all. Or only a moment of conditioned reality appearing. That's all. And then gone completely. If this is not implanted so very firmly, how can there be the moment of understanding what is there now? By conditions, not by trying to think about it. Even the boys beating the snake can be a moment of understanding the truth. What are there now? What were there then? Exactly the same kind category, that which experiences and that which cannot experience, and then gone. That's why each word of the Buddha should be considered carefully because it's so true. The absolute truth never changes at all. No one. What does it mean? No me, no thing. So what is that? No me, what does it mean? The world of absolute realities only. Otherwise, there cannot be people and things at all. But no understanding of the truth of the absolute truth of what is there. So it appears as something, and I all the time. I all the time in the past, I all the time in this life, and all in the time in next life and other life. Always I. So imagine, no I. What does it mean? No one, no me. Even right now, seeing arises to see and then gone. No me, no I. Hearing now, just right now, is conditioned to arise and then completely gone. Sunyata. No I. Until there's no I who remembers, I who think, I who like, I who fear, or whatever is there cannot be taken for I anymore. And that is the absolute truth. Otherwise, there must be, oh, I understand, oh, I remember, oh, I feel, oh, I like it or dislike it from life to life. Even listening to the sutta about this and that person, people all around Buddha, it seems like they are there, they were there at that moment. But actually, Buddha taught about no I, no thing. So imagine, what does it mean? The world of the absolute truth understood little by little as they are, never last at all gone, even right now. And that is meant by the enlightenment of the truth of what is there now as it is. And it's quite a long, long way. So understanding the truth that there cannot be anyone who can do anything, but the words of the truth is there to study and not forget, like no I. See, when will there be no I? There must be no thing. No arms, no leg, no bed, no table, no roof, or no bird or anything at all. That is the absolute truth. The moment of enlightened truth. The truth cannot be changed at all. That's why just hearing and thinking and considering, this is the development of understanding to be firmer and firmer, confidence of the truth. No me, hardness now, which is touch at any part of the body. It's only hard, and hearing hears and then gone until it appears as it is, clear. Otherwise, there must be doubt and clinging to that object, because everything which is now appearing or will appear later must be taken for something all the time. What about the truth? No one and no thing. There is the boy, when there is thinking about the boys. But where is the boy? Where were they now? See? Nothing, not me. It's thinking.
Otherwise.
Ajahn, thank you so much for those comments right now, because recently a friend of ours just passed away. And right now a friend of ours is at any moment the death cheetah. So I really appreciate hearing right now those words, no one, no thing, no self. Thank you.
My pleasure. I appreciate your understanding very much, because it's so true that it can be realized little by little until it appears as it is.
So difficult, so difficult, so hard to remember
The Buddha
moment by moment.
Pay respect to the right words from his enlightenment, out of his understanding. Otherwise, who can think about the truth, the absolute truth of actually no I is no I all the time. What are there can be known as a reality, that which is a moment of experiencing the visible object. At moment of hearing, it's gone. While we are talking about hearing, each moment of hearing is not there at all. so very short, so very rapidly. That's why it's the word of nimitta. That's why when there's no me, there's no thing, and there's and there's nothing. Imagine, it's beyond imagination. No one at all. Is it not true? At moment of just only hardness is appearing. No one and no thing, no eye, no finger, no plate, no fork, no spoon at all. Just a moment. So very, very, very rapidly it appears and disappears. Sunyata and anatta. And we don't have to do anything. We use the word as people understand what does it mean, we or I. Because all depends on conditions. All depends on conditions. Even seeing right now, the object is that whether it condition pleasant feeling or unpleasant feeling, attachment or aversion, who can do? No one there. They are the conditions, which condition such and such, whatever is there, even right now. So very rapidly. And this is the understanding itself. No one. That's why the more listening, considering, it can condition more firm confidence of the truth. And that can condition moment of understand directly now of a reality which is appearing. Unexpectedly, no choice what the object would be, to be known or to be object of awareness and right understanding of it. So very common, so very natural as now. They are there already, everything. No one has made it arise at all.
Thank you.
It's there already. So if you try to think about the future, try to do this and that, it is not the moment which can understand what is there right now. So study to understand what is there. And right understanding is so very truthful. How much understanding is there of that which is now appearing? About seeing right now and that which is seen. Nothing more than that. The seeing all the time in a day. It's not known as it is. So the development of understanding is developed little by little when there is a moment of understanding only. So it works its way, each reality. Right understanding can understand. And without the awareness, direct awareness, how can there be right understanding of that certain object? That's why the more there is the understanding of conditions, the more letting go the idea of I, of someone, or something. Can hardness be anything? Impossible. It's not the arm, it's not the eye, it's not the shoe. And that is truth. So when it appears as it is, it's different from now. Because now not any reality appears as it is. They are together as something all the time, as nimitta of what is there, which arises and falls away all the time. So we live in the world of nimitta, like a dream, just think about this and that. And when one wakes up, nothing in a dream is true or is there anymore. And life is just like this, from moment to moment, they're momentarily death, never to return at all. So no matter our friend dies or whatever, or are conditioned realities, each different one arising and falling away so rapidly. It seems like they arise together and fall away together. But no idea, even thinking about the truth that it's not there anymore. Where is yesterday? Where was yesterday? The same as where was just a moment ago. It's sneakily gone. No one knows. All the time. Without hearing the truth, the words of truth, and consider carefully. It is now this moment. If it's not known, how can there be the understanding of what is there now as it is? So it begins from, we're talking about what is there now. And Buddha taught so much about our reality because it's so very difficult, so hard to understand it as not self or anything at all. That's why we hear again and talk again about what is there now. Little by little, seeing. See, does anyone think about the truth of it? Not anyone. It's just a moment of experiencing that which impinges on the eye base. But that is not moment of understanding it, but to understand that it cannot be taken for anything at all. It's not I who see, because it's a reality. When it is conditioned to arise, can anyone stop its arising? And it's falling away, impossible. And if we think so much about it, how come and so on, as we used to think about something before, it's not the way to understand the truth, because at that moment it's I who is thinking, unknown. That's why each one can be the object of study, the truth of it, as no one and nothing. For example, even seeing and that which is seen, thinking and what is thought about, and so on, everything. So real, unknown. But it can be known little by little. Otherwise, it's useless for Buddha to teach about the truth. But since that can be understood, what is there? So that would be hearing about it again and again and again. Not to forget the truth that it's there just very shortly and then gone. It does not belong to anyone. No one can own it because it's gone completely. That's the way to understand no one and no thing. And when it appears just only one characteristic at a time, that is the meaning, what is meant by satipatthana, direct awareness with understanding. Otherwise, it's useless. Even it's there right now, it can be known like hardness, but no understanding, because it's not direct aware of the object, direct awareness of the object. That's why when the understanding the truth of no one and nothing is firmly implanted, it can condition any moment to let go by itself, even thinking about having less attachment to the object, no matter what, by conditions, little by little, not to the words which is not pleasant. It doesn't matter, not the words about praise, it doesn't matter, it's gone. No one and nothing is the best to understand because it's so true. Anytime, no one touching, is touching, hardness is experienced, how can there be other thing else in that very moment? And when Panya is there, it let go what are there together to be only directly understanding of only one object, which is aware of little by little, from this to that. It doesn't matter, even it's gone, because the next one is there, like seeing now. It's not just a moment ago seeing, but it can be known. The reality which experiences, otherwise only the word Nama is that which experiencing an object doesn't have any meaning at moment of seeing. But at moment of understanding, little by little, there is direct awareness from hearing about it, that it experiences now. It sees, performing the function of seeing, because no one there at all, no thing too, only that which sees in a moment. Life is in a moment, only a moment, from moment to moment. So very rapidly. That's why we take it for eye or thing by nimitta. The shape, the form, the idea of that which appears with this different shape and form. But in truth, only seeing sees that which can be seen, which impinge on the eye base and then gone instantly. And the nimitta of the reality which experiences can be known because they are there anytime, like now. See, pleasant feeling is there. It does not see, it feels. Different reality at any time just appear and then gone. So what can be known, what can be studied to understand the truth is only that which appears now, Otherwise, it's just thinking about the truth. But what about the truth of seeing right now? We think about the truth of the seeing, but the truth of seeing is right now. Seeing right now. The truth of it is now. That's why it's so very subtle. Even we heard about seeing sees, but at this moment I see. Because the characteristic of the reality or anything which experiences an object does not show up yet. Because when it shows up, there cannot be any rupa, anything around at all. And only the experiencing is there. It can be known at moment when one just wake up. Just wake up, see, that very moment. What is there as the object? Even it's not sound yet, even it's not seen yet, but the reality which experiences is there. But ignorance covers up the truth. No attention, no understanding. So how can it understand that very moment? By conditions, no selection, no choice. What would be the object of understanding at any time? So when we talk about this life and next life, one can be this personality of this person only before death moment. And even just one moment of death condition the next moment of birth. Who's there? The other from this one, conditioned to be. So when we talk about this person and the other person, there are two meanings. This person is what is taken for I, and the other person not I. And so next life, not this person anymore. The other person. How come to be the other person from this life and previous life conditions such different existence, not as now. They are all realities, no matter we talk about anything in the world. What is there is conditioned. That's why have the understanding, the truth that only one moment of experiencing an object arises and falls away so very rapidly. That's why whenever there is the reality which experiences no one there at all. So it's I now see, it's I now hear, that's all. Keep on going by conditions taken for I and things all around with ignorance.
And just to come back briefly to the sutta, it's in the Udana in the second chapter. And in the sutta itself, it says, he who injures with a stick creatures desiring happiness, seeking his own happiness after passing on, does not gain happiness. And he who does not injure with a stick creatures desiring happiness, seeking his own happiness after passing on, does gain happiness. And in the commentary, it mentions how hurting with a stick is not just with a stick as we know it, but it could be with the mouth stick or any kind of stick, any kind of desiring to harm others for one's own happiness. This is the result. So it's actually just talking about akusala dhammas, akusala karma, akusala results in lives to come, and kusala, citta's kusala karma, and the result is as happiness is in a deva realm or human realm. But at the end of the commentary, it mentions about, it refers to transcending both deva realms and human realms by realizing the happiness of nibbana. So this is only through the full understanding of the noble truths. So even though it seems like just a sutta about telling the boys about the danger of hurting with a stick, actually there's so much depth in it, referring to different kinds of kusala and akusala and results, and how even rebirth as a human or deva is just another life in samsara. So only the understanding the truths, understanding Dhammas as anatta, can lead to the end of life in samsara. Otherwise, life goes on and on. This person or that person, this realm or that realm, endlessly.
I didn't hear though, Sarah, in that what you've just read out, that the boys became so attained to sotapatti, or did I misunderstand that?
No, it doesn't mention it in the commentary. It doesn't make any mention of the boys, but as Ajahn said, maybe sometimes the wording is indirect, so it depends on how it's understood. So the fact that there is a reference to nibbana, and maybe one has to look at the tika also. So sometimes one has to piece together different texts, different suttas and commentaries.
I was thinking about the Angulimala, one of one of the people which the Buddha went a long way to go and see him, and wasn't he like the boys beating the snake, even worse? He was killing people, and
that's a very different situation. I maybe, but I think Angulimala, one of the reasons he went there, of course, because yes, you could make that connection, whether or not that is concrete or evidential is another matter. He went to see Angulimala, of course, because Angulimala's mother was coming to see him, and Angulimala would have killed his mother. The Buddha knew this, and obviously, if he killed his mother, he could not attain to Sotapatti. So he knew, of course, that he could attain to Sotapatti, could attain to the paths and the fruits. So it's a slightly different situation, I feel, but yeah, and what is mentioned, of course, is that Angulimala did become Arahatta. That was very clear even from the sutta, whereas this last sutta, it's not clear, and even though there can be a kind of an alluding to deeper things that was not stated explicitly in the commentary. Maybe the Tika says it. I doubt it personally, but and as perhaps was said earlier on, yes, we must bear in mind any reality that appears, and that this is important. Yeah, so I could say some other things about what was said earlier on, but I think I'll just leave that. But I think Angulimala is a very different situation, but I can see the connection that you are making there, Alberto. But the Buddha is alluding to his harmful way of life. But as I said, he knew he had those accumulations of panya within him, and he had just gone off the rails, as perhaps those little boys did, as we all do at sometimes, in different ways. But in different times in samsara, we've all got the bright and the dark accumulated there. Yeah, so yeah, it's a useful point. Thank you, Alberto.
Regarding the Sutta of the boys, I don't see what's like I don't see anything specifically Buddhist from it. I could even think that it could be like a Jain Sutta also telling you not to hurt animals, because that's not the way to reach Nibbana. So I don't know what part is what makes it specifically Buddhist.
Well, I think the Buddha obviously knew the right time and the right place, and he was close by and he saw some boys tormenting the snakes, and he chose to speak. I think that's very much in accordance with Dhamma, and yeah, why he chose to speak. Obviously, as we always know, that when the Buddha chooses to speak, every word that the Buddha speaks is for good reason, and there is never a word is wasted. And we know that there are many cases, like when the Buddha was enlightened, the Buddhas apparently go by psychic power from the place of enlightenment to Varanasi, but the Buddha walked deliberately to run into a fellow called Upaka, who he did not enlighten, but he spoke to in such a way as that he sowed the seed that maybe later on, and the Buddha said to him that if you are seeking me, or something along these lines, ask for an antajina and you will find me. But that was much later on. So he often did things as a condition for another time. So may not have been enlightened. This fellow Upaka, who was the very first fellow, or he's actually the third, but very early on after he was enlightened, on his way to Varanasi or Benares, he spoke to this fellow, but he wasn't enlightened at all, but he spoke to him as a condition for this life. And as like I'm sure you and I, Roti, who knows, we may have been there, and what we heard then is a support condition for us to be able to hear what we hear today. and some connection there. So I think there are always good reasons why the Buddha spoke, and it's complex, these things, as I'm sure you realize, but the Buddha never wasted a word. And there are many examples. I'm sure there are many other examples when the Buddha may not have been the condition for enlightenment at that particular time, but sowed a seed for the later in that life, or in other lifetimes.
And it says in the text that whilst they were harming the snake, if it had continued, he knew that they would not attain Paramatta Sukha. So only the Buddha understands the nature of all conditions. So not only was the snake's life at risk at that particular instant when he passed by, but also for the boys, the heaviness of the deed could be a condition for them not to penetrate the truths which they were capable of understanding.
What was that word you used earlier on then, Sarah?
Paramatta Sukha.
Used it earlier on. Higher happiness. Okay, but we know, of course, that killing animals does not preclude you from attaining to enlightenment. It's certainly a kusala kammapatta if you kill them. If you harm them, it's certainly a kusala kamma, but it's not a condition for them not to become sotapanna. So
who knows
sukha,
in that? Who knows in this life what conditions what? Only the Buddha could know the intricacies of conditions. Like someone who's obsessed with having just killed may not be able to listen to the teachings that otherwise they would listen to, for example. So only the Buddha could know at any moment what the intricacies of conditions are, or what would be a condition for listening or not listening, or understanding or not understanding.
True.
And Tom and Bev, very sorry to hear about your friend and your other friend who is close to passing away. And usually when we hear these things, we feel sad and sorrow. And of course, this is just accumulating more akusala, which doesn't help. And I also appreciate that you can really benefit and appreciate hearing about the truth of Dhammas. No one there, no snake there, no boys there, no one at all. Just different Dhammas that arise and bring their own results accordingly. And this is the only real medicine, the understanding that there are just different Dhammas, moment to moment, life to life. We think of what is good news and bad news, and as Ajahn mentioned, praise and blame and different circumstances, but actually who knows at this moment what is a condition, what is good or what is bad, or what is a condition for more understanding at any time. Even for the friends, the ones who are sick or the ones who are injured or the ones who have passed away, who knows about each moment or what life is to come.
Very true, Sarah.
It's so helpful, whatever comes in life, to know that they are just conditioned realities that can't be any other way, that cannot be changed, that no one can do anything to make it different at all. And the kindness and the care and the understanding is what will help your friends the most. I'm sure you've been a great support to them.
Well, she has been, is a very dear friend, but she lives in Canada. So for the past few years, I have not been able to visit. Though I keep in contact. I'm not sure how much she knows through mutual friends. So what you say is so true. And I do appreciate what Ajahn was talking about at the beginning. Life in a moment.
Come on, what's that?
Sarah, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, even for the one who is very ill or about to pass away, there are just different dhammas, moments of akusala vipaka, but still moments of kusala vipaka when there's no pain or discomfort. And for us too, life is just at this moment, just a moment of thinking or seeing or hearing or understanding or ignorance. It helps so much to understand that life is just at the moment.
Ajahn Cup, I'd like to talk about ayuhana again. We've talked about it in the past. And just recently, I've been looking at the Visuddhimagga, and Alberto kindly sent me some Pali, so I've been going over it quite a bit. Now, this is from the, perhaps I'll, for other people also, this is from the Visuddhimagga, this is chapter 17. It's 292. Now, there are many different references in the Visuddhimagga to ayuhana. There's about at least a dozen and a half, or pretty close to that, and they all have a single theme. Perhaps I'll just explore a few of them, and then I'd like to discuss it further and hear comments. So in chapter 17 there at number 292, first of all, the English, it says, so perhaps just an introduction here, in relation to Paticca Samuppada, usually there are 12, and sometimes there are not 12, there are sometimes 10, I believe. I think in the Mahadidana Sutta and the Dika Nikaya, which Bhikkhu Bodhi has translated, there are about 10 of them there. Doesn't really matter so much. And sometimes they're subdivided. And the first two, Avicca Paccaya Sankhara, in relationship to ayuhana, are divided into 5 factors. So, and I'd like to go through those 5 first of all. So it says, in the previous karma process becoming, which is, there is delusion, which is ignorance. And the Pali is pretty straightforward. Also, purima akama bhavasmin moho avicca. So, and this is referring to the previous life, because in those nidana, in those links, of which there are 12 or whatever number, whatever sutta you may look at, say we'll take the one that relates to 12 links, the nidana, 12 nidana. Those first two relate to previous life. So, and then it says, so that's the first one. In the previous karma process becoming, there is delusion, which is ignorance. And again, the Pali Purima karma bhavasmin moho avicca. Then the second, so I think I've made it clear, but I just need to perhaps make it a little bit clearer that what's happened in this particular classification with Visuddhimagga, they've divided those first two, avicca paccaya sankhara, into 5. So I've just repeated the first one. The second one, which relates to ayuhana, is there is accumulations, which is formations. And the Pali is ayuhana sankhara, pretty straightforward. The third one is nikanti tanha. Now, nikanti, people may not have heard of us, just means something like attraction, or it's another face of lopa. So nikanti tanha. And the translation there is attachment, which is craving. Then number 4 of these 5 links, which relate to the first 2 of Paticca Samuppada, it's got upagamanam upadanam, which is translated as there is embracing, which is clinging. So upagamanam means up to go up close to, and they've translated there is embracing, which is clinging. And then number 5 is chaitana bhavoti, volition, which is becoming. So there, the ayuhana are related to the sankhara dhammas, which are kusala and akusala, and sometimes also there is included in that the aninja, which are the rupa and arupa jhanas. So that's the first one I looked at, and so it's quite clear from that ayuhana relates to the accumulated kusala and akusala dhammas, which was my original understanding of it. And we subsequently had further talks on that, which seem to have elaborated on that, but I hadn't found that. So anyway, I'll just like to continue, if I may. Please bear with me. The second one is also, relates to the Visuddhimagga, chapter 17, 293. And the English is, it is the volition that is accumulation in 6 of the impulsions of the single adverting that is called formations. The Pali is pretty straightforward also. Ekavajanesu wa chasu jawanesu chaitana ayuhana sankhara nama. So the English again is, it is the volition that is accumulations in 6 of the impulsions of a single adverting that is called formations. So formations, obviously, is equated with ayuhana, which relates to the sankhara dhammas. As it clearly says there, ayuhana sankhara nama. They are named, the sankharas are the ayuhana there also. Now, the third one, which is also in the same section of the Visuddhimagga, chapter 17, number 293, or any kind of volition is called becoming, and the accumulations associated with their are called, excuse me, I'm sorry, can't read my own writing, or any kind of volition is called becoming, which is yakachi wa pana chaitana bhavo, and the accumulations associated therewith are called formations, which is sampayutta ayuhana sankhara nama. So again, sankharas are related again to ayuhana. And the last one is on 293. There is volition, which is becoming, means the kind of volition stated already. Accumulation is becoming. This is the meaning, and it should be, as it should be understood. So chaitana bhavoti, ayuhana wasane vutta, chaitana bhavoti, ewa makta veditabbo. Now, thank you for bearing with me. There was just a bit of a break there, and I thought I would take advantage of it. Now, Tanajan, perhaps first, and I know others may want to speak to this. There was this aspect of ayuhana, which was relating to, as I understood it, which was being said, was relating to certain results in a certain lifetime. Now, all the research I have done on ayuhana points squarely at the accumulated kammas, akusala and anindya, if you want to add those ones in too, which relate to the rupa and arupa jhanas. That is what is related to as ayuhana. Now, as I said, what I have subsequently heard also as it relates to the experience of different dhammas relating to different lives, and I've never come across that which has been spoken about in the Suddhimaga, certainly. So I would like to perhaps, Tanajan, perhaps ask you first, how do you understand the word ayuhana?
Yes, the word of the Buddha is to talk about, study the meaning of the word or the truth of that word, or that word represent realities. It doesn't matter what word, but to understand the truth of what is there as not self, as Dhamma. No matter used in this aspect or other aspect, the understanding of the truth is the core of listening to the Buddha's word, because he enlightened the truth. And the word, how can there be any word which fits the moment of a reality appearing now? That's why if we study the reality from the word Buddha taught and understand the truth, that can be the understanding what is the true meaning of that word. So now there is the idea of what is ayuhana. Shall we talk about the first moment in life to understand the truth?
Please, Ajahn.
Because each moment is real and is conditioned by so many complex conditions. For example, the birth moment, there are different birth moments, birth consciousness, right? Not only one, right? And
John.
even for one, it's so much different from the other. Even one was born as human being or deva, but what are they accumulated are so very, very different. That's why we begin to understand the meaning of ayuhana. There are so many karmas, uncountable from life to life, and to condition the birth moment of this life, it has to be one karma. But what happened in one's life, if one was born with the kusala vipaka, it should be all kusala present moment object appearing, but not at all, because sometimes it's the unpleasant object, even one was born in human being realm. But by what? By different karma. So ayuhana means at moment of birth, there must be one karma which collects the all karmas which can be conditioned for what would be happenings in that life. That's why we can see the change from birth to many happenings and not change at all. So poor from birth to death, or sometimes from rich to be poor, or rich all the life. See, by accumulation. So that's why the ayuna is the karma which condition the birth consciousness, and that it's not just only karma only. There must be many karma collected to condition different moments in that lifetime. Can that be understood?
Yes, I understand so far, Tanajan. Thank you. Please continue.
This is one meaning, right? And usually we talk about karma as cetana, but there are other sankhara dhamma too. But when we talk about paticcasamuppada, we talk about cetana only. Punya pi sankhara, apunya pi sankhara, anecha pi sankhara. Not just sankhara, but abhi sankhara. So the abhi sankhara must be only cetana.
So just before you continue there, Tanajan, abhi sankhara, you're referring then to a ninja kamma there.
Punya pi sankhara, apunya pi sankhara, Anicca Sankhara, which means Cetana
Okay.
Cetasika.
I understand it, John. Thank you.
So other aspect?
No. Oh, well, it begs a few questions. So I thought, please continue, because you're talking about Punjabi and Apunjabi Sankhara and Aninja Sankhara as well. So that I understand that the Sankhara or relate to the Ayuhana, which relate obviously to Chaitana also. Is that, do I understand you correctly, Tanajan?
When we talk about Sankhara Dhamma, all conditioned realities are Sankhara Dhamma. But when we talk about Sankhara Khanda, only 50 Cetasikas are Sankhara Khanda. And when we talk about Api Sankhara, only Cetana Cetasika is
Okay.
Sankhara.
And that's helpful. Thanks, Tanajan. Okay. So Sankhara can relate, as you said, to 50 Cetasika Sankhara Khanda, or it can relate to Chaitana.
Sankhara Dhamma, all Dhammas, conditioned Dhamma, Citta, Cetasika, Rupa, are Sankhara Dhamma, right?
Cup.
But when it is only Api Sankhara, it means only Cetana Cetasika.
Okay.
It's
Abhi
conditioned Vijnana, Patisanti Citta.
Okay. Cup. Now,
For others, I was just going to quickly mention for others, the Punya Sankhara is referring to all kinds of kusala, including upajana and apunya to akusala karma and anenja to arupa brahma chitas. So it's just referring to the chaitana, which is karma, which can bring results. So the ayukuna is not referring to the result, it's always referring to the karma that is accumulated that can bring results in that lifetime.
just a small point there, Sarah. Both the Rupa and the Arupa jhanas relate to Aninja, not just the Arupa. Please continue, Tanajan.
I think the punya includes all kusala and rupa, and anenja is just the arupa.
No, I don't think so. I think that the punya relates to the karma loka, kusala and a kusala, and the aninja relates to the rupa and the arupa brahma loka. Or excuse me, rupa and arupa brahma, rupa and arupa jhana development.
Check it afterwards. I think you'll find it's just the arupa.
No, I have checked.
Okay.
When we talk about realities, when we talk about what are the karma vajra, is not as better or good or better than rupa vajra and arupa vajra jhana. So very, what you call it, waver at all. So firm, to be tranquil, to be calm, much more than rupa vajra, because that is still rupa. So close to the kama vajra, the world of the sense though. That's why kama vajra is lowest.
Okay, perhaps perhaps you can clarify there, Tanajan, because so how do you? Because when we talk about a ninja, are we just talking about arupa, or are we talking about rupa and arupa jhana?
A ninja is only arupa because it's the highest. It is not close to the kama vajra as the rupa vajra. The rupa vajra even so calm, but it's so close to experience the sense object. That's why it's as firm, not as more tranquil than the arupa jhana. So the lowest is the kama vajra, we have pleasant feeling just about the five senses, but how different from even pleasant feeling without attachment, being attached to sensuous object. Nobody can think about it at all. Only when it appears, there is another level of even pleasant feeling, which is not kama vajra, not just about the sense of, but when there's no sense of, and the mind is so calm, and the pleasant feeling is there, it has to be much different from kama vajra, pleasant feeling. See, but it's still close to seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, not as firm tranquility, like the plane which has no sensuous object or any rupa at all, even the rupa Brahma. So that is the highest one. So there are three levels.
Okay, yeah, no, you're right, Sarah. I apologize for that. Thank you, Tanajan, for clarifying that. I had read that, so obviously the book that I was reading was misleading. Never mind. Please continue, Tanajan.
So now we have come to Ayurveda, already understanding the meaning of it.
Well, I'm starting to get a better understanding because it's still somewhat obscure. It's not clear, but it's clear, getting clearer. If you can, because perhaps a lot of my question revolves around this aspect of, you've talked about the collecting, which relates to the word ayuhana, of the different chaitanas from life to life that accumulate. So what has been spoken about in the past is this aspect that certain results from those accumulated kamma will only bring certain type results in certain planes. Yeah, that is obvious in a way, because if you're born in a Rupa Brahma Loka, you're not going to be scorched horribly like you would if you were born in Awichi. But we know that all of us have done both the bright and the dark deeds. So I still can't see how ayuhana relates to the results that can happen in a particular birth, because that's really, it seems to be another point or an add-on subject rather than what really ayuhana, as per the Visuddhimagga, seems to relate to. I don't know if you understand my question, Tanajan. I'm hoping you get some of it at least. Perhaps do you understand what I'm...
Yeah. I think that in order to understand anything clearer, there should be just talking about one reality at a time. Now we're talking about the birth consciousness, how they are different, even in one person, sometimes pleasant feeling happening, and sometimes unpleasant happenings at all. There must be condition. If it's the result of the one kamma, it will not change. It's the result of kusala kamma. So what is experienced has to be a very present object. But since life is not like that, even the moment of birth, citta are so much different. Because for one person, what would be in this life, as the birth, different happenings by different conditions. So the karma which conditioned birth consciousness to arise collected all other karmas which has accumulated to be able to produce result, to condition result in this life. That's why the bird cannot have the castle. It has only small nest. See?
So please repeat that, Tanajan. I didn't quite follow you. Please repeat that.
Pardon?
Please repeat that, what you've just said. I missed a couple of words there.
The birth consciousness is so much different from one another, right?
True, Cup.
By conditions, right?
Cup.
So when the birth consciousness is kusala vipaka, if it can be just kamma, which produce it, which condition the rebirth moment, would end up, what happened in one's life must be pleasant, because the patisanti citta is the kusala vipaka, right?
Cup.
But why one's life is so much different from rich to be poor, from poor to be rich, from healthy body and to very bad ill health, see, by conditions. So can the kusala karma condition the akusala vipaka?
No, cannot.
That's why the birth consciousness is quite much different. The birth consciousness of the Buddha, see, the birth consciousness of Adana, the birth consciousness of Kassapa, the birth consciousness of Supabuddhi, Kuti, see, by conditions. That is the meaning of ayuhana. Not only one karma would condition result in this life, but there are other karma which the patisanti citta collects ayuhana, or that which can condition what would be there in that life. The life of the bird, no castle, the life of someone who might be a prince or what, castle and so on. See, by ayuhana too, or not only karma. So ayuhana karma must be there, collected to condition what would be what would happen in that life.
I understand that.
So one meaning of ayuhana is there, right? And when we talk about karma or punya pisankhara, apunya pisankhara, chapi sankhara, we have to understand from the very beginning, all conditioned Dhamma is sankhara Dhamma. Citta is sankhara Dhamma. Cetasika is sankhara Dhamma. Rupa is sankhara Dhamma. Because whatever arises has to be conditioned. And we studied the complex of karma from moment to moment. How many conditions are there? Not only one condition. See, sahachata karma pajya, anyamanya pajya, and so on. All are different. That's why when we talk about sankhara Dhamma, it means all conditioned reality. And when we talk about sankhara khanda, not all sankhara Dhamma is sankhara khanda. Only 50 cetasikas are sankhara Dhamma, and the other two, feeling, consciousness, feeling is Vedana Khanda, and Sanya, memory, remembering, is Sanya Khanda. See, that's why there are 5 khandas. Rupa Khanda is one, and 4 Nama Khandas arise together. Vedana Khanda, Sanya Khanda, Sankhara Khanda, and Vijnana Khanda. So when we talk about Api Sankhara Dhamma, it is not other reality. Only Cetana, Cetasika is Sankhara, is Api Sankhara Dhamma. That's why at moment of Kusala Karma, it is Punya Apisankhara, Cetana is Apisankhara. At moment of Akusala Karma, Cetana is the Apunya Apisankhara. And when it means the Punya Apisankhara, all the Kama Vajra Kusala and the Rupa Vajra Kusala are the Abhi Sankhara, Punya Apisankhara. But Anensha is higher than that. I couldn't remember the English word, but it's not
Imperturbable.
Or what you say, wavering or whatever, because the Rupa is close to sensuous karma. Right? That's why Anensha Apisankhara is only Arupa Jhana.
Okay.
The other. So but now we understand the Sankhara Dhamma and Sankhara Khanda and Api Sankhara Dhamma.
Yeah, that's much clearer, Dhamma. I really appreciate that. Please continue if you can.
And so what else that we would talk about from moment to moment, from one word to another word?
Okay, so let's talk about the Chaitana, the accumulated moments of Chaitana which can produce results in this life. Perhaps
Karma condition akusala vipaka cakkhu viññāna akusala vipaka.
Yeah.
Sota viññāna akusala vipaka.
What I'm trying, sorry, please continue, Tajan.
The 5 doorways. And for akusala karma, it can produce or condition only 7 akusala vipaka. Not as much as kusala karma.
True.
And the kusala karma of the sensuous world, karma vajra, more than the rupa vajra and arupa vajra, vipaka. That's right. Another word for karma vajra is mahavipaka or mahakusala and mahakiriya. Another word for karma vajra kusala, it is mahakusala. For the vipaka, karma vajra, it is mahavipaka. And for arhata, mahakiriya. Yeah. Another word for karma vajra only.
The point that that's been very helpful, Tajan, and I will listen to it again to consider it more carefully. What I'm still not so clear to me is that how the ayuhana can bring only results in certain planes, and in what sense?
Ayuhana is the other karmas which are collected at moment of birth to be conditioned for whatever will happen in that life.
That's clear to me. But what I've understood in the past is that they will only relate. That makes sense to me, that they will only, because if you're born in the human realm, we'll say if you're born in the Rupa Brahma Loka, there will only be results related to that plane. You won't get really badly burnt in that particular plane like you would if you're born in Awichi, for example. But the ayuhana are still there.
Can we say the ayuhana is karmas which are collected to be there at moment of birth consciousness?
Certainly, we can say that. That's how I understand it, Tanajan. That's all. Okay.
That's right. In life, there are different moments of kusala vipaka and also akusala vipaka, even when one was born as human being. That's all about ayuhana.
Other karmas have been accumulated, but there'll be no conditions for them to bring result in that particular life. Like like you said, the results in the Rupa Brahma realm are going to be different from the results in the hell realm. It doesn't mean that the akusala karma that was accumulated before, that doesn't bring results in the Rupa Brahma realm, has disappeared. It's accumulated to bring results in another lifetime later on.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's reasonably clear, I think, Sarah. The only point was that there was another point made another time, and perhaps I misunderstood it, was this aspect that you can't receive, and perhaps you can't, and perhaps you've just covered that point there. You can't. Sorry, somebody's trying to speak there. And perhaps you've just covered it there, Sarah, when you said that obviously we've all accumulated those upana kamma, many squillions of them over many lives. But if we're born in the Brahma Loka, then we can't experience the results of being severely burnt, which you would in the hell world. But those the ayuhana are still there. Those accumulated chaitana, if you like, are still there, but they won't bring result because it's not the appropriate plane for it to bring result. That makes sense to me. Thank you.
So I think the ayuhana refers particularly to the karma that's been accumulated, that from the moment of birth can bring results in that particular lifetime. So it's quite specific.
Yeah, okay. So can bring results in that particular lifetime. Well, we can say that for sure, because we know that we can't have certain results like in the Brahmaloka of being burnt, because there's not the right conditions for that in that particular birth. But we know the conditions can be there at another time or at another birth, excuse me. Yeah, okay, I believe that seems to be clearer to me. Thank you.
It's good to see you back to Tao after your sickness. Anything you'd like to bring up today? Glad to see you again.
I'd like to know about seeing. And is it not true that there are 3 stages of seeing? The first stage of Sabhava Dhamma, Paramata Dhamma. The second stage of Nimitta. And the third stage of Panyati. And what I'd like to know first is, what should Satyam Panya see? Is it only the first stage, or Satipanya has to see the second stage as well? It's my first question.
I didn't quite get your question to Tao. When you talked about 3 stages of seeing, you're talking about the arising of the reality, and then the nimitta of the reality, and then the concept, the panyati, with regard to the seeing. And then you were talking about sapaya panya. What is sapaya panya?
No. I'm talking about Satyam Panya. Satyam Panya, the function of Satyam Panya is just to see the realities, or the realities as well as nimitta.
So sati is one reality and panya is another. So the function of sati is to be aware, to be aware of the kusala at that moment, to be aware of the reality as it is.
Yeah.
And panya, of course, the function is to understand the reality. So at a moment when sati and panya arise, when like now, it's the understanding and awareness of the concept of reality when it's intellectual understanding, because it's not the seeing itself, but it's the discussion and the considering about the nature of the reality of seeing. So it's the concept of seeing. But when it is the direct understanding, the direct awareness, it is the understanding and the awareness of the reality itself. But of course, it has to be the nimitta of the characteristic of the reality, because the seeing itself has arisen and fallen away countless times, and there can't be awareness or understanding arising with seeing or with seeing as an object, except as by way of the nimitta, because at the moment of seeing, visible object is experienced. So seeing can only be the object experienced through the mind or by way of its nimitta. But perhaps Ajahn would like to add more, but does that make sense?
So are you saying that sati and also panya see nimittas, not realities?
For example, loba now. How is loba the object of understanding? Because loba only arises with akusala chittas. So when loba is experienced, when it is understood, or when there is awareness of loba, there cannot be loba at that moment. Because loba is akusala. So it has to be the nimitta of loba, the nimitta of the characteristic of loba. And it's not one loba. There have been countless moments of loba, but it has a characteristic which can be known by its sign, by its nimitta. So even if we're talking about very highly developed understanding and awareness, like at moments of vipassana jnana, when the object appears clearly, still it has to be by way of the nimitta. And that's the same with seeing or any other reality. It has to be known by way of the nimitta of the characteristic of the reality, because the reality itself has fallen away. But at the moment of understanding or awareness, there's no thought about, is this the reality, or is this the nimitta, or is this, because it's just the understanding of the characteristic of reality. At a moment of understanding of seeing, is just the seeing itself, the nature of seeing, which is understood. So it doesn't matter whether it's reality or nimitta of reality, it's just the characteristic of that reality which is known, which is directly known.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Sela. Kusela. Is there anything between realities and nimitta? Is there anything between nimitta and concept?
As Ajahn always reminds us, if there was not the reality, if there was not the seeing itself, there could not be the nimitta of the seeing. And if there was not the nimitta of the seeing, there couldn't be any thinking about the idea about seeing. So that is the connection, that without the arising and falling away of realities in rapid succession, there couldn't be any after images or signs about those realities. There couldn't be any impressions left. And without any impressions, there couldn't be any thinking about colors or shapes or people or things at all. So there have to be realities in order for there to be impressions or signs, and there have to be those signs in order for there to be panyati, concepts, making known those realities.
And today, someone the other day gave the word echo for nimitta, which I had never heard before, which I thought was quite good though, because it's not the original. It's a kind of a copy, if you like. So there are these kind of pulses, if you like, or copies or echoes of the original Dhamma, which is, and certainly in the mind or process, has fallen away. And as Sarah said, we're able to think about, if there wasn't those echoes, or if there wasn't those nimitta, we wouldn't be able to think about them. That it's entirely dependent upon those echoes or those nimitta, those marks, whatever you like to call them. The name's not so important, but I remember when I heard it the other day, I thought, well, it's quite a good translation for nimitta as sort of an echo of reality that's already fallen away.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Sarah, may I just ask a question to just clarify this? And it's interesting. Thank you to Dow for asking that question, because I had a similar one myself, actually, about nimitta and reality. But just to clarify, is there anything that arises that does not have, that is not followed by nimitta?
Whatever arises has to have nimitta.
Okay.
So even someone asked the other day, even if it's a reality that is never appears or is not known, like Bhavanga Chitta, still it has its nimitta, it has its sign. So only nibbana is the animitta Dhamma without nimitta. So whatever arises and falls away is nimitta, has nimitta.
Thank you. And so, and that's what Ajahn means when she says we live in the world of nimitta.
Nimittas, yes.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful.
Sorry, Kapajan. I have a question related to the Ayuhana, which Sundara was talking about. I've been reading about another way of explaining karma as Janaka karma and Upatambaka. Janaka means generating karma, and Upatambaka karma means supporting karma, and Upapilaka karma, which means the opposite of supporting, like
Stopping. Impeding. Impeding.
Yeah. And the last one is Upagataka, which means like stopping or cutting off the karma. Because can you explain more about this way of explaining of these aspects of karma, especially in how it relates with Patisandhi and the life one in a lifetime, in a lifespan. I'm not sure if about
and the Jankup, did you hear that question?
Yeah. When we talk about this aspect, we talk about the function of karma. See, there are so many karmas, but which one will perform the function of Chanaka, birth? See, so one karma only can condition Chanaka karma, right?
Cup.
At birth. And after that, that same karma condition what is there to be experienced. Like after being born, there must be that moment of experiencing. One just lives there, just stay there. But the karma still condition or produce the moment of vipaka, to see, to hear, and on as vipaka. That's why we understand the second kicca of karma, not just only condition to birth moment, but it also condition of vipaka experiences. What is that? That the birth consciousness conditions such moment, not different from what it has done in the life which conditioned birth of this life. So no doubt about the first one and the second one. Function, Chanaka karma, Upatambaka karma. support other moments to arise by such birth, by that karma which condition birth consciousness with ayuhana other karmas, which condition other moment of different object, pleasant or unpleasant, by birth or by the function of such karma. For example, one was born with the kusala karma, but the moment of experience unpleasant object, it is not the same karma which is kusala, that condition seeing pleasant object or hearing pleasant object. But when it's not unpleasant, it's the function of other karma, which is ayuhana, is there to condition such happenings. That's why one understands that charaka karma, upata karma, and upapilaka karma, the other karma, which makes the karma which should condition pleasant object not to be able to condition that pleasant object because of the other karma condition the moment of unpleasant object to be experienced, right? In a day, in one's life. Pleasant or unpleasant vipaka, kusala vipaka or akusala vipaka by karma. And the last one, whatever arises must have conditions for its arising. So there can be other karma is strong enough to condition the moment which is so sudden, not to be that person anymore, just to end up that life, not to be that person or to live more. Sudden condition by karma which is strong enough to condition accident or whatever is said. Because usually each life can condition its own vipaka. But when it ends up, it's the death moment. But before that, there can be other strong karma which can condition the moment of death and up the life of kusala vipaka of that life. Is it possible or it's now? We don't know about karma because karma is that which no one can know at moment when it perform the function, perform the kusala karma or akusala karma. And even the moment of result, it's not known from where, from what karma at all. It's hidden, the karma and the vipaka. No one knows from what life at all. Maybe years and years life before. Or just this life, or just past life, who knows? But whatever arises depends on conditions. The result has to be conditioned by karma. And I think that the best thing is to understand reality as not self, because now it's appearing. For example, is there seeing right now? How many moments of seeing? Can only one single reality be directly experienced? Impossible. According to the processes that Buddha taught after Bhavanka, what is that? Not seeing yet. But there must be a citta before seeing. Can that be known? Impossible. And can the citta after seeing be known? Impossible. That's why now, because seeing performs the function of seeing. So the characteristic of that which sees, which is the citta, the seeing consciousness, can be known because it's there, experiencing an object from moment to moment, never lost at all. There must be citta arising and falling away. No matter when one is fast asleep, or one sees or thinks or whatever, it is that which experiences the object unknowingly. Only that which is taken which appears as something, and that is what we say nimitta. Now, at moment of seeing, it's not just one single seeing. So what appears now is many moments of seeing, not of citta, not of citta before it or after it. That's why it is the nimitta of seeing. And any doorway, not single reality can be directly experienced by way of viticita, processes of experiencing an object. So since only one cannot be directly experienced, so what is now there must be the nimitta, the succession of that certain particular reality. Even some Panchadvara Vachana, the citta before seeing, and the Sampatichana after seeing, cannot be known. So sin is not be known. That which is known is nimitta of only seeing, because it performs the function of seeing, while the other does not perform the function of seeing. It performs its own function, which is in between or after seeing. That's why so many realities are in between processes, and there must be bhavanga in between. That's why everything which now experience so very short, because it appears only in one process. And after that, it is bhavanga, but it's so very, very rapidly that what is known is just seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. But the other cittas are in between, unknown. That's why it is the nimitta of seeing when there is seeing. It is the nimitta of hearing when there is hearing. And at moment of smelling, it is the nimitta of the citta, the smell consciousness. That's all. That's why one lives in the world of nimitta, unknown, that actually what we think is there is not there anymore. In order to be able to condition moment of realizing the absolute truth, otherwise there cannot be the eradication of the idea of self or thing at all. So each word of truth should be considered very carefully. No one, what does it mean? No thing, not just only no one, no thing. What does it mean? It is the moment when the world is not covered up with ignorance and attachment anymore, so that it can directly understand what is there as it is, only one reality as nimitta of that object. And when there's no understanding, the nimitta is taken for something to be known as glass or shoes, and that is panyati. It made known by its nimitta. When it is the nimitta of that, the panyati take it for shoe. That when nimitta is that, the nimitta, and the panyati make it known as a rose, see, or a nimitta. Reality, the absolute reality arising in the way all time, unknown. That's why the world is covered up with ignorance and attachment until ignorance is less, no attachment to the next object. So there can be the moment of beginning to understand the truth of that object, not the past or the future, but what is there as nimitta can be studied as not self until the world is lost. Because what we take for the world is that which is conditioned to arise and falls away in succession so rapidly that it appears as nimitta, and panyati make it known as something all the time, like eye, the shape of tower, or whatever is there, by shape and form of the succession of the rapidity of that which arises and falls away in split seconds. All nimitta, but the truth is underneath, behind what appears is that which arises and falls away, cannot be arised again, cannot return, cannot be found completely extinguished, but they're conditioned for the next one instantly all the time. Even the citta itself, after it has fallen away, it conditioned the next citta by way of anantara pachya. So the citta, which does not condition the next moment, is only parinibbana of the arahata. That's why life has to go on, being born and die, and born again and die again, different ones, different moments, even in this life. How can it be I or anything? Seeing is seeing, hearing is hearing. The reality which experiences has to experience when it arises. And that which cannot experience, no one can make it experience anything, because its nature is just, it's hard or soft, smell or taste, only then. So many things behind the scene, the picture, the nimitta of what is there as something. So the word of the truth, no one and no thing, only a reality experiencing an object at a time. Without that which experience, there is no world, no thought about anything at all. So thinking is conditioned by seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, marking, remembering of what is there as something by shape and form, all in one's life. But when there is right understanding, it's so very natural, because now hardness is appearing at moment of touching, no understanding, ignorance is there. Instead of ignorance, it is moment of understanding the nature of that which experiences. This is the way to let go the idea of I touch or I touched something. All gone instantly, all the time. Blind world when there's no understanding.
And what is the reason is already gone already by the time it's being thought about. By the time it is thinking about it. It's just
yes, please go on.
I was just trying to follow up on what you were saying about nimitta and.
Now it's nimitta of seeing, of what is there appearing as something all the time. But the truth is that it cannot be anything without shape and form. And if there is only one single unit, can it be a towel, a shoe, the soap, or whatever is there? It can be broken up into just a very, very tiny atom, or what is there, particle, arising and falling away. This is the truth, the absolute truth. Nobody can change the truth. There must be a reality. And when we talk about a reality, it is not two or three, just only one, which is real. No one can make that arise or change it into different things. For example, what is seeing is the moment of experiencing what is there, which impinged on the eye base. Only that is seeing. So can there be someone there? Can there be anything there? The absolute truth is that it's only that which appears. It cannot be taken for the shape and form as something at all. Because in truth, without that which arises and falls away so rapidly, there cannot be anything at all. But the truth of what is there is, since whatever is real arises and falls away in split second, so very rapidly, that what is left is a succession of that which arises and falls away in succession. And when it is what appears to the seeing, it's something with shape and form. But the truth is that how come the shape and form of that, without seeing just a particle, which are there together with many moments to form up the idea of shape and form as something, as panyati. It makes known as something because of its nimitta. And nimitta is nimitta of a reality, and further on is the mitta of a thing to be known. And at moment of knowing, no matter in words or not in words, as something is nimitta. That's why we take whatever is there as something. A leaf, say a leaf, a rose, a grain of rice, see, all are that which is seen as nimitta. In truth, just very short, very, very subtle reality arising and falling away all the time. That's why without the enlightenment of the Buddha, the truth is covered up tightly, hardly, no way to open it up because no thought about the truth, even is there. How can there be such understanding of the truth of it as without seeing, it cannot appear to be the object as something. And when it is just a moment, it cannot be anything at all. And this is the word of truth, the absolute truth of what is there in life, in world. That's why thinking, considering about the truth, how far it is from this moment of understanding what is there. Because actually, there is no one and nothing at all, no world. At moment when only one reality appears to right understanding of its truth, nothing can be there. Otherwise, it cannot appear well or clear to show up as it is, as what is seen is only that. And to be clear understanding, it has to be through mind, because mind experience whatever sense or experience instantly. So it experiences the nature of that particle which appears as it is, nothing at all, so fast, so subtle. It has to follow moments of hearing again, considering again, developing little by little of that which is now appearing. Otherwise, it's not the truth because it does not appear, but we think about it. What about this moment of that which appears, which can be known little by little from considering the truth?
Thank you, Ajahn. This has been a wonderful discussion. I think
It's wonderful, Tanajan.
Yeah,
Many
we're-
thanks.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.